On today's show, the Houston Rockets unravel in the second half against the OKC Thunder after a really impressive first 18 to 20 minutes of this game. No answer for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Chet Holmgren, who absolutely took over in the fourth quarter. What went wrong defensively for the Rockets in this game? Jabari Smith Jr. with a monster night, almost getting a 20-20 game. Why the Rockets need more from Alperen Sengun. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
Throw it up to Jalen Green.
Sengun here in the short roll. Oh my, that's the no look.
Jabari for three and the win. Yeah!
Look at Tari Eason.
Here comes Tari.
No! T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
The Houston Rockets select Thompson and Cam Whitmore.
One thing I have never done is not made the playoffs, and so we want to take that step here as well.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin. The show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, free and available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including YouTube. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for being an everydayer and making the show part of your day every single day. Joining us now is your weekly co-host, NBA draft enthusiast, and diehard Houston Rockets fan, Madison Moore. You can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Here to break down a game that started really great for the Rockets. Like, they were up by as many as 16 against a very, very good OKC Thunder team. It looked like we were headed for a 2-0 record against the Thunder so far this season, Madison. First about 18, 20 minutes or so of this game where everything was all Rockets the whole way. And then things just completely came off the rails, kind of just a little bit before halftime. OKC kind of started taking over a little bit there just before halftime. And then that third quarter, they wound up outscoring the Rockets 30-21. And then, man, that top of the fourth quarter, OKC just dominated. Chet Holmgren was on another level. I believe he had 19 points of his total 29 in that fourth quarter. He had 10 points across the first three quarters combined, scored 19 in the fourth. Rockets had no answer for him. This really did feel like a game that was maybe not quite the tale of two halves, the tale of like the first 18 minutes and then the final 30 minutes for OKC.
Right. Yeah, no, this was a real tough game to watch because as the things begin to unfold, you could kind of see the writing on the wall. I think the Rockets competed very well in the first half defensively, but the Thunder still seemed to be chipping away and not too bothered from not getting calls and kind of stayed the course. And the Rockets were just flaming hot from threes. Right. So as that occurs throughout the game, then the Thunders kind of find a groove at the end of that fourth, and it really hurts us. And it really came against our starters, where we had some really uncharacteristic turnovers from Fred VanVleet, and turnovers is like a big issue in this game to me. And in the end of the second, and top of the third, and top of the fourth is where the Thunder go on these runs, and they're really defined by their defensive play, by creating turnovers, blocking shots in the fourth quarter with Chet, and really just some greatness from their star players. But what was really discouraging for me, a lot of those plays where those turnovers came, I mean, Fred VanVleet had some really bad turnovers in that second quarter, which got them into the rhythm, like back-to-back turnovers, not slowing it down, not doing the things that I think Fred VanVleet is brought here to do. I think he only had 3 assists and 4 turnovers. Like, that's just unacceptable. I mean, Alperen Sengun finished with 6 turnovers tonight. There was just some things from the guys who are supposed to settle us down when we have a lead, and we are supposed to, get back to what we do best. And we just couldn't do it because I think our best players and our most poised players were not very poised tonight. I mean, even there was a play during a very crucial run where Jalen Green is on a fast break with Dillon Brooks, and he passes ahead to Dillon Brooks, and Dillon goes one-on-one and just refuses to pass the ball to Jalen Green for a wide open dunk. Those are the little things that allow the OKC Thunder to continue their runs in these runs. And it was just to me, it was a game of runs where the Rockets didn't do the little things to get past those runs from the Thunder.
What was funny is it felt like in that first 18, 20 minutes where everything was clicking, Rockets were firing on all cylinders, the shooting was there, whatever. It felt like they were doing the little things, right? It felt like they were
right.
The ball movement was incredible. They had in that first quarter. Now, granted, again, when you shoot, so to your point about the 3-point shooting here, I wanted to crunch the numbers on this just to have it. Rockets shot 8 of 15 from 3 in that first quarter, so they were on fire, 53%. They shot 8 of 26 from 3 the rest of the game, so a smidge over 30%. So yeah, they regressed quite a bit shooting the basketball. But one other thing that fell apart as the game went on too was the ball movement. They had in that first quarter, I believe, I think at one point it might not be at the end of the first quarter, but at one point I remember they had 12 made shots and they had 9 assists on 12 made shots. Like they were moving the basketball incredibly well early on. I thought they made it a really big point, a point of emphasis in this game to try and get Alperen Sengun involved offensively early and really kind of run things through him, because the last time these two teams played, Alperen Sengun absolutely dog-walked Chet Holmgren. Like it was a really impressive showing. Chet had zero answer for guarding Alp. He was stronger than him. He was driving straight through his chest and finishing strong at the rim. This game, complete night and day difference. I don't want to say Alp looks scared to go at Chet, but he just didn't have it in this game. And credit to OKC's help defense, the guys who came over, the double teams, a lot of guys, collapsing on Alp doubles and triples, and that led to a lot of the turnovers that you already alluded to, the 6 TOs. And look, if you look at the final box score from this game, you're going to be like, oh, well, Sengun had 19 points. He had 12 boards. I think Sengun absolutely has to be better. Like this was a game where this was a matchup where Ime Udoka clearly tried to make it a point to feed Alp very early on, get him going, get him in positions to be successful against a very Chet Holmgren's an incredible defender, but he doesn't exactly have the strength to really go toe-to-toe with Alp. And I felt like Alp kind of missed some of those early opportunities. And then the Rockets started to maybe go away from that because it wasn't successful early on. And then whenever they did go back to him over the course of the game, it resulted in turnovers, some bad possessions. It was just a really rough night for Sengun, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like I said, I feel like Alperen Sengun and Fred VanVleet are supposed to be the poise of our team. Yeah. When they're supposed to get us back going the way we need to get going. And those guys just turned the ball over tonight. I thought OKC's defense was really good. The defensive plan, they packed the paint, and that led to a lot of wide open threes early and actually throughout the game. But man, their hands and defensive activity on the backside with their help men was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they got so many pokes on the ball from behind from all the players on the team, honestly. I mean, guys, you could tell the Rockets were trying to be aggressive through these tough stretches and put pressure on the paint, but every time they got 2 feet in the paint, it seemed like somebody got a hand or a deflection on the ball, and which led to a run out and really just hurt the team. And in those times, those are the things I kind of expect to see from our young players, which we did see, like Cam Whitmore had some really tough plays where he'd go 1-on-2, 1-on-3, some really just knucklehead plays.
Cam had some plays where he was going 1-on-5. All right.
Yeah. I mean, just tunnel vision. I mean, to see Dillon Brooks do it over and over again, to see Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, but Jalen, I actually thought some of his drives were actually pretty good. He was getting to where he needed to get to, but it's still, they were packing the paint in a way that the Rockets really just weren't able to overcome and kick. And I think the Rockets had a similar game plan defensively against OKC, but they had some of the best decision makers in the world who just kicked it out to open three over and over again, where they sunk the defense and had a lot of off-ball actions that confused the Rockets and got them a lot of wide open threes in which they converted.
Coming up, we got to talk about the Rockets' defensive game plan in this one. What went wrong trying to contain Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then Chet Holmgren there, especially late in the game in the fourth quarter when he absolutely exploded for 19 points. Plus, we got to talk about Jabari Smith Jr.'s monster game, flirting with a 20-20 game, very close to breaking his career high in rebounds and so much more. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Grammarly. No matter what kind of work you do, how you communicate is absolutely key. All those emails, reports, presentations are so equally important to the collaboration needed to get things done. And that's where Grammarly can help. Grammarly is your AI writing partner to help you communicate more effectively and efficiently so you can make a bigger impact at work. Better writing means a stronger impact. 96% of Grammarly users report that Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing. Grammarly works across 500,000 different apps and websites. By understanding your writing and context, Grammarly provides relevant, personalized suggestions. Their tone suggestions help you navigate even the most difficult work conversations. Make a bigger impact at your work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's Grammarly.com, Grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, Madison, when we look at how the Rockets were trying to defend OKC, it was really funny because we actually saw, first time these two teams played, we saw Ime Udoka go out there and have Alperen Sengun guard Josh Giddey from the jump, right? And it's just a sign of the almost utmost disrespect that you're going to guard a player with your center. But then OKC turned around and did the exact same thing by using their center, by guarding Thompson later in the game with Chet Holmgren, because Amin can't shoot, Josh Giddey can't shoot. So what are you going to do, right? But I felt like early in the game, the discipline on SGA was actually pretty solid for the most part. Now, he did, finish the game with 9 free throw attempts, hit 8 of them, finished with 36 points. That's just kind of what SGA does. I'm honestly not even really upset with how they defended SGA and the fact that he did score those 36 points. What didn't quite make sense to me, and this is what the issue with what I take with the defensive game plan, is when Chet Holmgren started to take off there late in the game, a big part of it was because they started doubling SGA, even away from he would be out at the 3-point line and he would send double teams at him. And the rotations off of those double teams were not crisp whatsoever. They were leading to wide open threes, wide open buckets for Chet Holmgren. And I felt like the Rockets maybe had a committed game plan of, hey, we're going to stay disciplined on SGA. We don't care if he scores on us. We're just going to let, guard him one-on-one, try and pack the paint a little bit, make it tough on him once he makes it inside. But we're not going to send, 2 and 3 guys at him, especially when he's out on the perimeter, right? Kind of let him do his thing. And we've seen Ime Udoka do that a lot with big name stars, right? Let this guy go off for 30, 40. We don't care. We're going to shut everybody else down. And then it felt like they abandoned that game plan in the fourth quarter. And that part didn't make sense to me because they were doing just fine. Again, holding Chet to just 10 points across the first 3 quarters was pretty solid. And then things unraveled there in the fourth.
Yeah, in the fourth, and a bigger part of it to me is, yes, you gotta double Shai. And I understand you don't want to send those doubles too early because it just makes it too easy in the decision-making situations. But to me, what hurt us worse was the rotations, like you said. These rotations, I think you have to show another body on Shai. And I think Shai actually worked for every point that he got tonight. I was actually very kind of proud of how the Rockets defended him, especially in the first half. And they made things very tough on them, made it tough for the refs to kind of call fouls early, but it kind of just got away from them over the course of the game. And I just really credit that to the greatness of Shai and also Jalen Williams, of their just ability. It felt like a running back, where you just continue to give them the ball and let them get downhill and until, you break a defense. And it seems like by the fourth quarter, they just figured it out. They figured out exactly what they needed to do, and they were in complete rhythm. And some of the passes he were making to wide open 3-point shooters, and then while still also consistently getting to the rack and scoring and drawing fouls, it just seemed like he kind of wore us down. But more importantly, it's the rotations. I mean, Cam Whitmore's rotations and defensive, performance tonight was really, really tough. I mean, him at the end of the third
tonight
quarter
was a prime example of watching a rookie play against a very good team, because you saw some of the tunnel vision on display offensively, driving into 2 and 3 and multiple guys. You saw the mistakes defensively, kind of compounding things where you'd have like a reckless drive on offense, ignites the fast break for OKC. Then you have Cam try to get back in the picture and he doesn't know who he's trying to pick up defensively, and it's just mismatch nightmare. It was a rough game for Cam in this one, and he looked every bit a rookie in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, man. It's honestly crazy because that lineup of Cam and Amin, that bench lineup that they come in and like with 3 minutes left in the first quarter. In the first half, they were so strong together. They got out and ran. They made defensive plays. They were really active, especially Amin Thompson with I think 3 blocks in the first half. I mean, he was incredible defensively in that half. And then at the end of the third and top of the fourth, they really lost it. It was almost the opposite of their performance, and that's the inconsistencies we see with rookies. And so, I mean, to me, a lot of people call for the starting of Cam Whitmore and Amin Thompson, and these guys are such exciting young players, but this just goes to show consistency is the name of the game. You know what I mean? And when you go against the best teams in the league, and once teams start game planning for you and knowing what you do best, they take away what you do best, and then players kind of regress in the manner that you see tonight, right? And when you're not scoring, that sometimes affects your defense and your defensive awareness. And I think that really got to Cam. It almost felt like Cam felt like he needed to get himself going offensively, and he kind of forced the issue, and it affected his defense tonight too, and especially in the second half.
I think one of the funniest moments from this game was Cam trying to feed the ball into Dillon trying to, secure a seal off for a post up down low, and Cam had the ball in the wing, and then Cam waved DB off to get to a step back 3 and then missed it. And it's like, dude, that was kind of a rough moment to watch. But, and to your point, right, that 2-man combo, Min Thompson, Cam Whitmore, when they check into the game, they do change the flow, they change the dynamic. The Rockets suddenly play with a lot more pace when those two guys are in the game. Hell, one of the first early possessions in this game was when Amin Thompson blocked SGA. So great. SGA beat him. He comes in from behind, blocks him from behind, and then takes off in transition. He dimes up Cam Whitmore for an early transition dunk. Like, they do still impact the game. There are still great moments, but you also see, right, what happens when you have a good team like the OKC Thunder, and I can't even say an experienced veteran team, just a well-coached, well-oiled machine, start to pick away, and you find the little cracks, you find the little chinks in the armor, right? And you take advantage of those moments. So Amin, I did think you mentioned earlier talking about the Rockets made SGA work for every single one of his points, every single one of those 36 points he got. I fully agree there. I thought Dillon Brooks' defense on him was actually pretty phenomenal for the most part. Very disciplined, didn't bite on many pump fakes. Like the times that he got to the free throw line, I think he earned those free throws with legitimate contact rather than like his fakes and all this stuff that he usually does. And then Amin's defense on SGA when they were matched up was also incredible. So I thought they did about as good of a job as you could hope for on SGA. The rookies had some rookie moments. It is what it is. The guy who I think is clearly your Locked on Rockets player of the game from this one is Jabari Smith Jr. He had a monster game. He always plays with a chip on his shoulder when he plays against OKC, especially when he plays against Chet Holmgren. And he had 20 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Only 6 of 15 shooting, but he was doing a lot of the dirty work on the glass, and I love it. When he plays big like he did in this game, the Rockets are a completely different team, right? This is kind of the level of like rebounding that we'd come to expect from Jabari pre-ankle injury, because he came back from the ankle injury and he didn't quite look the same. He wasn't nearly as aggressive on the board, so it's nice seeing him kind of get back to that a little bit more. But I gotta wonder, Madison, if at one point, top of the fourth quarter or something, if Mark Daignault like walked over to Chet Holmgren and was like, hey, Jabari's punking you right now. Go out there and get it done, because right now he is absolutely crushing you in tonight's game. And then Chet Holmgren woke up there in the fourth quarter, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought Jabari was really good throughout the course of this game. He slowed down and cooled down in that fourth quarter, but I thought he got the Rockets off to a really, really good start defensively and offensively. He had 3 threes. He had that and one early, and I think he was a big part of why the Rockets were able to grow that lead such early, and how crucial it has been for this Rockets team to get good starts. So it was really good to see him do that. And I just thought he was kind of a beast off on the offensive boards. Like I seen him just jump through out of nowhere and grab boards, and he really shows some toughness that I know that's deep down inside of him, and I want to see more of that out of him on a night-to-night basis. And he kind of really brung it tonight, and he had the shot going. So it was really good to see. It's unfortunate that it kind of went away from him during the fourth quarter. I think he took some kind of not bad shots, but early shots. And I think that's another thing that these young players have to realize when the team is in trouble, we need a good shot. We can't take the first shot, that's semi-open. We have to actually get into our offense, run something, and make sure we get the best possible shot throughout the course of the game. That's how you stop these runs. That's how you respond properly. And I just feel like it wasn't just Jabari, but a couple players, even our vet players, just took some bad shots or just some early shots that I thought we could have, be more measured and get better shots, which also leads to why OKC scored so many points tonight.
Coming up, final segment, final thoughts from this Rockets Thunder game. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost that you get from an outfit that makes you look really, really good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. Look, with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preference, order boxes when I want to, how I want to, no subscription required, and they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and I send back all the rest. Stitch Fix makes it so easy. I don't like to shop, and they save me the time and the effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look and feel really good. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, navigating this final segment here, Madison, one thing that I've been kind of noticing a little bit as of lately, and I want to give a quick shout out to a good friend of the program and member of OG Rockets Twitter, Stanford KP, because he's been on this train for a minute now that Dillon Brooks is not nearly the impactful player that we see him as. Now, I will say, again, credit where credit is due. Defense was good in this game. The 3-point shooting was good in this game. But we've been seeing this bit of a trend as of late where the 3-point shooting has still been awesome, but he's starting to kind of creep back into a little bit of that Memphis Dillon Brooks with some of his, the tunnel vision, the aggressiveness, the getting to certain spots on the floor, some of the bad shot choices. And I made a bit, it was kind of made in jest, but I think there was a little bit of truth behind it last game after the Rockets Suns game, where we saw, because Dillon Brooks was in foul trouble that game, we saw some lineups that featured basically all the starters and Amen Thompson instead of Dillon Brooks. So I kind of made the joke that, the tired thought is benching Jalen for Amen, and the wired thought is benching Dillon for Amen, because at this point, I still think Dillon makes sense, but there's something about the way that he plays at times that feels a little clunky. I don't know how else to describe it. Give me your thoughts, your feelings about Dillon Brooks right now.
So I'm the regression of Dillon Brooks is been kind of creeping up on this team. And I think we all kind of have been giving it a pass because of the injuries, and we understand a player's need or feel that they need to do more for the team when, and pick up the slack. But tonight was just a perfect example of how you can really hurt your team offensively. Some of the shots when OKC was going through these runs, I talk about over and over again about veteran leadership to get this team back into sets and get good shots. And there were a lot of isolation plays from Dillon Brooks in the fourth quarter that just were really tough shots that we know no one drew up. It was just Dillon Brooks mano a mano, and he really has to check his ego on that type of stuff. We talked about the play with not giving the ball back to Jalen Green for an easy score on the fast break. I mean, that is a selfish play. Like Dillon Brooks, that's selfish.
It's weird because
that's what it is.
Earlier in the season, I felt like he was actually really like locked in his role. You know, he would drive, he would kick, he would do all the little things that you would want out of a guy in his role specifically. Over this last like month or so, I feel like the dude doesn't really pass much. Like, he just doesn't pass the ball.
It's not like it used to be, and we really need Dillon Brooks. We need Dillon Brooks on this team because nobody brings that defensive toughness and pedigree. The resume of his defense as well is very important, and not just that. Dillon Brooks has been an incredible catch and shoot 3-point shooter on a team that really needs 3-point shooting. He's one of our best 3-point shooters, and he went 4-5 from beyond the arc, but finished 4-10. Right. So the only shots he made was those 3-point shots. He has to learn to pick his spots better. We understand that you can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Make sure it's within the flow of this offense. When just like passing is infectious, when you make selfish plays like that, that's infectious. That makes the next guy, and you are a leader, which makes it so much more important that you continuously make the right plays. I mean, as bad as Jalen, as much as Jalen has struggled this year, Jalen seems to consistently try and make the right play or the extra pass. Or, you see what I'm saying? Like, that whole thing about Jalen being a shot chucker to me is completely over in my mind because of the pass. Because no matter what, Jalen has consistently tried to make the extra pass throughout this season, and you like to.
And before transferring back to Dillon Brooks, I just on your point about Jalen, I thought his passing was actually phenomenal this game. Like the way that he would, he had that one play where he blocked. It wasn't SGA, but he had a block on one end. It might have been SGA, but he had kind of a block from behind, recovered the ball, went in transition, touched the paint, kicked it out to Dillon Brooks, wide open three, fantastic. Exactly. He dimed up Alp on a roll to the basket, one possession. He had a kick out to Fred VanVleet that didn't result in a made 3-pointer, but he had some really good passes in this game where you could tell he was reading what the defense was doing. He was reacting appropriately. Now, the game on a whole, right? 5 of 13 shooting, that needs to be a little bit better. 1 of 5 from outside. That's nothing new, right? We know that the 3-point shooting is a struggle. He had those few plays where he drove it in, kind of back-to-back plays where he drove in on Chet Holmgren and used the rim to like shield him, scored with the right hand. He had some impressive moments in this game, but you still it's tough because you want to compliment him on the stuff he did right, but then you're also like, but you also need to do more. Is the problem?
Yeah, of course. Like Jalen needs to do way more. He needs to be more efficient, of course. But some of these things you can help. Right, like you can your defensive effort, you can help. Now there was a play where Shai like kind of backed him in and he got the foul, but his effort was there, so I was okay with him getting that foul. To me, Jalen's issues are not of an effort or mindset issue right now. Like he's making the right plays, he's remaining unselfish, and those type of things keep your team, like it's a part of the rhythm of the game. It keeps a rhythm. It's something that you can't quantify on a stat sheet. You know what I mean? And I just like to see my veteran player and Dillon Brooks also be bought into making those consistent plays over and over again. Like, I understand that you have the confidence to make big shots, and those opportunities will naturally come within the game when there's a big shot that we need you to hit, and you hit a tough big shot 3. You just need to make sure they're good shots because you're hurting your team and it's infectious. Those guys feel it. They feel the need. Cam Whitmore, it's itching in his hands that you know what I mean? And when you take an early shot or when you take a shot that a post up against ISO, it really just hurts this team in a way that you can't really explain. But I think this explains it best. Dillon was a team worse, minus 20 tonight. Minus 20. And I felt that over the course of the game. I felt it.
What's funny is the first play of the game, right, was a Dillon Brooks post-up on Josh Giddey. And I don't know, here's the thing, I don't know if that's an Ime thing or a Dillon thing, because we've seen Ime go to Dillon when he feels like he has a mismatch or a smaller player. What do you think? Do you think that was an Ime thing or a Dillon thing?
So Ime, of course, equal opportunity offense. Remember that? Yeah. And then when you get certain matchups, they have it schemed up where this is an appropriate play because it's matchup dependent, right? But Dillon has found a way to be overzealous about that. You see what I'm saying? And it's just a way. It's like, hey, man, that matchup has to come natural throughout the game. And some of these are not. Like I've seen Dillon go one-on-one against not smaller players or very good defenders, and it's like, hey, Like, I understand you think you have the advantage, but like your awareness here isn't as well. So I just need him to dial it back and really get back to being more team oriented and keeping this team moving the ball that we need to the way they need to move the ball throughout the game.
One final thought here is, there were a few moments as things were kind of unraveling there in the third quarter, and OKC really started to click, and then completely just took off there in the fourth, where, watching, and this is the downside to these two guys, even though they've made, strides defensively, both Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green this year. When you get those two guys guarding pick and roll action, it's rough. Like and there were like a series. It was like 2 or 3 different plays there in the third quarter where we saw OKC get the mismatch they wanted and basically get Sengun and Jalen involved in the 2-man game, and there was just no answer. When those two guys are guarding the pick and roll, it still looks bad, and that's unfortunate because individually, like if you have Sengun out there with 4 good defenders, or you have Jalen out there with a lineup of good defenders, they can kind of hold their own, right? They've gotten to a point where I think at times those guys can at least be neutral or even positive, defensive presence. But when you put them together, then it's kind of like, crap, like this is not looking great. And I don't know how Ime is going to have to juggle the minutes and the lineups to do this. You have to find a way to get Amin Thompson more minutes. Like even in this game, he was 2 of 10 from the floor, only 6 points. He was such a difference maker defensively. His rebounding, didn't have a monster rebounding game like he has in prior games, but Amin Thompson is such a difference maker for this team. They feel like they play different when he's out there. He brings intensity. He does a lot of the little things right. He had a few moments though in this game, and it's similar to Cam, right, where you see those rookie moments kind of creep in, where unfortunately, he has a couple of those moments, and I think it was near the end of the first half where Amin had 2 back-to-back mistakes on a couple different possessions, one on offense, one on defense, and then Ime pulled him after that happened because he was like, I just can't have that out there. But I still think in the grand scheme of things, Amin Thompson has shown a lot of flashes as of late. He's become a guy that really makes an impact and makes a difference when he's on the basketball court. Kind of similar, like a la like Tari Eason, right? The way that Tari just goes out there. He doesn't need plays drawn up for him. He makes things happen. Amin had these moments, right? He put Josh Giddey in the spin cycle on one of his drives. He had a great coast-to-coast transition bucket. He had some really strong moments in this game, even though you look at the box score and you're like, all right, 2 of 10. Like, why are we raving about this guy? Because he makes things happen when he's on the court.
Yeah, I mean, I just think his activity defensively on and off ball is just, it is all NBA defense level. And I think I knew he was going to be a great and potential all NBA defensive type player, but I think this dude could be, defensive player of the year type. I think he has that type of potential in his game. And yes, he has to find ways to be more effective. But as we know, once teams understand your weaknesses, they make you ineffective. So this is more about our young players, to me, understanding their weaknesses and really addressing them this offseason.
Put D Wade on notice because we have another guard coming up as the greatest shot blocking guard of all time, and his name is Fred VanVleet. No, I'm kidding. It's Amin. It's Amin Thompson.
That's a good one.
All right, Madison. You know the drill. Let me know where to track you down at.
All right, man. Come follow me on @MadmanLeaks on Twitter. Come talk Rockets basketball.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts, or on YouTube, just search Locked On Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.